Some people are born into wealth. Others spend their whole lives chasing it. A few have learned to master it, but most are simply trying to survive it. At first glance, money seems like a math problem, numbers, spreadsheets, and equations to be solved. But in reality, our biggest financial decisions aren't made in front of calculators. They're made at dinner tables, shaped by pride, fear, ego, and our personal histories. Money is never just about logic. It's a dance, a tension, between the cold calculations of finance and the messy, emotional reality of being human. When it comes to money, we are not rational beings. We are emotional creatures with stories, wounds, and instincts. And the truth is, financial success has less to do with what you know and more to do with how you behave. This video draws inspiration from Morgan Housel's remarkable book, The Psychology of Money, and together, we'll explore the part of money most people ignore. Not the numbers, but the human side. You're not irrational, just uniquely shaped. Each of us is born into a different generation, raised by parents with different incomes, values, and worldviews. We grow up in different corners of the planet, exposed to wildly different economies, opportunities, and financial norms. So naturally, our relationship with money is anything but identical. Take the stock market, for example. Someone born in 1970 likely watched the S&P 500 soar nearly tenfold during their youth, forming a sense of trust and optimism about investing. But someone born in the 1950s? They witness stagnation during their formative years and may carry a sense of skepticism instead. Born in the 1960s? You probably grew up with runaway inflation haunting every decision, so caution and distrust came naturally. Now imagine being born in 1990, a time of low inflation and relatively calm markets. You may not even think about inflation at all. Here's the point. Our earliest financial experiences become internal blueprints. Whether we're confident, cautious, or confused, it all traces back to what we lived through and what our parents modeled for us. And while these behaviors might seem crazy to someone else, to us, they feel entirely rational. We act based on the information we had, the context we knew, and the lens we've inherited. Morgan Housel puts it best: people do wild things with money, but no one is actually crazy. There's no single correct way to handle money. Just a million different stories, shaped by time, place, and family. That's why one-size-fits-all advice so often fails, because what's irrational to one person can feel like pure logic to another. Warren Buffett is widely regarded as one of the greatest investors in history, and for good reason. But here's the jaw-dropping detail. Over $81 billion of his $84.5 billion net worth came after he turned 65. Let that sink in. What most people miss is that Buffett's success isn't just about his investing skill. It's about how long he's been playing the game. He started investing at the age of 10, and by 30, his net worth had already hit $1 million. That's the real secret, the compounding effect of time. Here's a simple example. If you invest $1,000 at 8% annual return, you'll earn $80 the first year. Reinvest it, and next year you earn $86.40. It doesn't feel like much, until decades pass. Now imagine if Buffett had followed a typical 20-something lifestyle, traveling, spending, and delaying investment. Let's say he only started with $25,000 at age 30, and retired at 60, while still earning his signature 22% return annually. His net worth? Roughly $11.9 million. Not bad, but that's 99.9% less than what he actually built. So yes, Buffett is brilliant, but his true superpower isn't brains. It's time. Now compare that with Jim Simons, a hedge fund legend who's achieved a jaw-dropping 66% annual return since 1988. Even with these superior numbers, Simons' net worth is $21 billion, far less than Buffett's. Why? He didn't begin serious investing until his 50s. According to Housel, if Simons had compounded his returns as long as Buffett did, his net worth would be absurdly astronomical. The point is clear: compounding favors the patient, not just the talented. While everyone obsesses over short-term wins, the quiet, steady force of compounding builds unstoppable momentum over time. Success isn't always about earning more. It's about staying in the game long enough for the magic to happen. Optimism is the belief that over time, things will work out, even if the road gets rough. But when it comes to money, most of us are wired for pessimism. Why?
Because good things unfold slowly.
While bad things crash down fast and loud. Money is deeply personal. So when we hear news of economic downturns or financial disasters, we pay attention. A 40% stock market crash over 6 months? That grabs headlines, and maybe even sparks government action. But a 140% gain stretched over 6 years?
Quiet. Unnoticed.
No one's talking about it at dinner. The same applies beyond finance. Every year, medical advancements quietly save 500,000 lives, yet we barely notice. But one sudden tragedy, a plane crash, a natural disaster, or an act of violence, captures our collective focus instantly. There are countless overnight tragedies, but almost no overnight miracles. That's why pessimism feels more real.
It shouts. It shocks. It sells.
But long-term progress?
It whispers. And we tune it out. Still, here is the truth.
Despite setbacks, history shows that over time, things tend to improve. So the next time you see a terrifying headline about the economy or the stock market crashing, pause.
Zoom out.
Don't let the noise of pessimism cloud your view of long-term growth. Practical optimism isn't naive, it's strategic. It allows you to spot opportunities that fear might otherwise blind you to. In 1968, there were roughly 300 million teenagers around the world. Of them, only 300 students went to a high school in Seattle called Lakeside. And Lakeside just happened to be the only high school on Earth at the time with a leased computer. An advanced teletype Model 30 that even most universities didn't have access to. One of those 300 students was Bill Gates. So just do the math. The odds of being a teenager with early access to a computer in 1968 were 1 in a million. That head start, paired with Gates' brilliance and relentless drive, gave him an advantage few could imagine. Even Gates himself admits this, once saying, if there had been no Lakeside, there would have been no Microsoft. But there's a lesser-known part of the story. There was a third teenager in that group of prodigies, Kent Evans. Just as gifted, just as driven. He was on track to help build Microsoft. Until he died in a mountaineering accident before graduating high school. The odds of that happening? Also about 1 in a million. Where Bill Gates encountered an improbable stroke of luck. Kent Evans collided with its quiet twin, risk. Morgan Housel describes luck and risk as two sides of the same coin. Like wind and waves guiding a sailboat. You may steer the rudder and adjust the sails. But ultimately, the forces that shape your journey are not always in your control. The truth is, success isn't just about talent or hard work. It's also about timing, opportunity, randomness, and sometimes, sheer survival. Keeping this in mind brings something powerful.
Humility.
It helps us stop blaming ourselves when life doesn't go according to plan. And stops us from taking all the credit when it does. Most people chase money believing it will make them happy. But Morgan Housel offers a powerful reframe.
Happiness is being able to do what you want, wen you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want.
Ironically, in our quest for more wealth, many of us surrender the one thing that actually creates happiness, our time. We work longer hours. We sacrifice weekends. We trade freedom for status, yet wonder why we still feel empty. Research consistently shows. The greatest predictor of happiness isn't income, or job title, or how big your house is. It's whether you feel in control of your life. Time is the ultimate currency. And the biggest dividend money can give you is the ability to own your time.
Think of it like this.
Chasing money without valuing time is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole. No matter how much you add, it keeps leaking.
The same goes for your life.
You can earn millions, but if you have no time to enjoy it, you're not truly wealthy. So before you ask how to grow your bank account, ask this first. How can I buy back my time? Because sometimes, freedom is the most valuable thing money can buy. In the world of success, whether in art, business, or investing, it's often not about being right most of the time. It's about being right once, big enough to make everything else irrelevant. Take Heinz Berggruen, a man who fled Nazi Germany and became one of the most legendary art collectors in history. He amassed thousands of artworks, including rare pieces by Picasso, Cezanne, and Matisse. In 2000, a portion of his collection sold for over 100 million euros. So what was his secret?
Was it pure genius?
Or blind luck? According to Horizon Research, elite art collectors like Berggruen don't bet on a few perfect pieces. They buy a lot, wait patiently, and let time filter the winners. Sure, 99% of their purchases may never amount to much. But that 1%?
Tats wer se Fortune ließ.
One Picasso can outshine 100 unknowns. This phenomenon is known as a long tail, a tiny number of outcomes generating the majority of the rewards. It's the same story in venture capital.
Most Startups will fail.
But a few, those rare outliers, make 20x returns and carry the whole fund.
Consider Amazon.
In 2018, it alone contributed 6% of the S&P 500's total return. And within Amazon, it wasn't everything that succeeded. It was two products, Prime and AWS. Amazon had plenty of flops, like the Fire Phone. But when asked about that failure, Jeff Bezos famously said, "If you think that's a big failure, we're working on much bigger ones right now."
He gets it.
You don't need every project to win. You just need one tail event to explode. But here's what most people miss. We only see the final success. We don't see the hundreds of failed experiments, the awkward jokes, the sleepless nights.
Like our Netflix comedy special.
What you see is the polished performance.
What you don't see?
The dozens of cringy, failed jokes the comedian tested in small clubs. The special is the 1%. The rest was just rehearsal. In investing, the same truth applies. We panic when things go wrong, forgetting that setbacks are normal. Warren Buffett picked nearly 500 stocks in his career. Only 10 made the bulk of his fortune. Good investors are right some of the time. Good leaders make smart calls half the time.
The lesson? Don't let frequent failures blind you.
Your future might be shaped by a single moment, decision, or product. It's not about perfection. It's about staying in the game long enough for your tail event to show up. Being rich and being wealthy are not the same. Richness is loud. It's what you drive, wear, and flaunt.
But wealth? Wealth is quiet. It's what you don't spend.
It's the money still sitting in your account, quietly growing. The investments you didn't cash out.
The luxuries you chose not to buy.
It's easy to assume that someone driving a Lamborghini is wealthy. But behind that shiny exterior, many are drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck just to keep up appearances. Wealth isn't the diamond ring, the mansion, or the first-class upgrade. It's the restraint behind the scenes, the stuff you didn't buy. Building true wealth requires discipline.
Aware what you don't purchase. Aware impulse you resist. Aware dollar you save and invest.
Those are the real markers of financial strength.
Here's the tricky part.
Rich role models are everywhere because they're visible.
But wealth? It hides.
And because it's hidden, it's harder to imitate. We're conditioned to think, if I have money, I should spend it. But the truth is, the only way to stay wealthy is to not spend the money you already have. So next time you see someone in a flashy car or big house, remember,
Wild ist invisible.
And it often lives in the choices you don't make. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. From the ground, the path looks clear. But as you ascend, the weather changes.
The trail disappears. You stumble. You bleed.
Yet you knew all along, that risk was part of the deal. Now, imagine approaching the stock market thinking you can skip the pain and still get the view. That's the lie most investors tell themselves. Morgan Housel compares it to buying a car. You want that sleek, shiny new car, 12% returns?
It comes at a high cost.
The used car, 4% returns, is cheaper, safer, but slower. And then there's the third option, stealing the car, trying to get market returns without paying the price.
How?
By timing the market, jumping in and out, chasing trends, avoiding the dips. But that's not investing, it's gambling. From 1950 to 2019, the Dow Jones returned an average of 11% per year. But that journey was filled with crashes, panics, and chaos. To get the return, you had to ride the roller coaster. And most people just couldn't stomach it. They tried to jump off mid-ride, missing the recovery that always came after.
The truth?
Volatility is the price of admission.
It's not a punishment. It's the ticket.
The market doesn't give you returns for free. It charges you in fear, doubt, and patience. If you treat that fee like a fine, you'll quit. But if you treat it like a necessary cost, you'll endure.
En ten comes the final, brutal leçon. Knowing when to stop.
The hedonic treadmill keeps you running.
Every time you reach a goal, the bar moves. You tell yourself, just a little more. Until one day, Jure chasing shadows.
Even the ultra-rich, Bernie Madoff, Rajat Gupta, fell because they didn't know when enough was enough. Wealth without limits becomes a prison.
You climb a ladder that never ends. And the higher you go, the harder the fall.
So ask yourself honestly, what does enough look like for you? Because if you don't define it, the world will. And it will always tell you, not yet.